Of all the albums from Kylie's long and storied career, few elicit as many strong opinions as her 10th long player, X. An album many believe tried to be too many things to too many people. So what's the truth behind the record? Why exactly did it end up sounding so disjointed and confused? Who was Like a Drug offered to first? What inspired the song Wow? Why did Kylie's record label upset so many songwriters, including the Pet Shop Boys, with the album? And how did Calvin Harris really feel about working with the princess of pop? So many questions, let's find out. X was recorded over an 18-month period from March 06 to September 07 in destinations as far-flung as New York, London, Paris, Sweden, Ibiza and Brighton, with well over 40 songs being recorded. According to an article in Attitude from 2008, Parlophone continuously changed briefs for the album throughout the making of it. At one stage, songs with modern hip-hop beats were requested from songwriters. After Kylie's cancer ordeal, Like a Prayer was even suggested as a lyrical reference. Rihanna's SOS and Nelly Furtado's Maneater were also floated as blueprints for new material. The article also mentions that two of the men responsible for the record could not agree on its direction, with one favouring a more traditional pop sound, the other a more adventurous, credible sound. In an interview CD used to promote the project, Kylie said she didn't have keywords for the album whilst recording. The pop princess just went to her favourites such as Stars, Starlight and Universe. The album had various working titles along the way. It was rumoured to be named after the track Magnetic Electric, which of course didn't make the album, so another name had to be chosen. And as fans online had been calling the album X for some time, our Kyles went with that. A total of 28 writers and producers worked on the 13 songs, most of them some of the biggest names in the music industry, so clearly no expense was spared. Kylie's comeback single Two Hearts is arguably the most controversial choice of a Kylie lead single from her whole career and has generated much debate amongst fans over the years. Kylie does tend to go a little left field with her lead singles, as she did with Can't Get You Out of My Head and Slow. I think most people agree that Two Hearts is a good song, but can't stand next to the other Kylie classic lead singles, such as the ones I just mentioned. The Go Frap inspired track was written by husband and wife Jim Elliott and Jemima Stillwell, who were part of London indie band Kish Mauve at the time. In an interview from 2007, Kylie said she returned to do a second recording of the verse vocals after her initial session in order to achieve a more seductive, lazy sound. The track was debuted by Kylie at trendy mid-2000s East London club night Boombox. But many felt Two Hearts wasn't indicative of the album as a whole and was underwhelming after such a long wait for new material. The song was Kylie's final Australian #1 to date and 10th in total. On Steve Anderson's Such a Good Feeling podcast, Jim Elliott talked about how the song was placed with Kylie. We played gigs all over the place, but underneath I knew that these songs were stronger than the act. I can't remember how it happened, but one of the songs found its way to Kylie, and we weren't signed at the time. We were struggling as a band. Suddenly we got called up by Kylie's A&R man, Jamie Nelson, and he said we love Two Hearts. Here's a major pop star digging our song. Amazingly, Jamie said the song is there. Kylie just needs to put her vocal on it. That was the most major turning point I'd had. From being in the landfill of indie bands to having a cut with a pop star. And not only that, but a beloved pop star. And that changed everything. Whilst Two Hearts may not have been the comeback single that fans had expected, Jim Elliott and Jemima Stillwell more than redeemed themselves on Kylie's follow-up album Aphrodite, for which they wrote the Kylie classic All the Lovers, which incidentally is my favourite Kylie song ever. The diminutive diva was in more familiar territory with the British and Aussie follow-up to Two Hearts, Wow. In an interview at the time of the album's release, Kylie said that by summer 2007 she was starting to lose enthusiasm for the project and had grown tired of dark recording studios in London. So the pop princess suggested a songwriting holiday to Ibiza to recharge her batteries and to get the creative juices flowing again. Long-term collaborator Karen Poole and soon-to-be super producer Greg Kirsten accompanied her on the trip. On Steve Anderson's podcast, Karen Poole, former member of Alicia's Attic, spoke about where they stayed in Ibiza and how Wow was written. It was the most amazing house and we went out onto the terrace. Kylie was like, oh my god, wow, wow. We said that's the perfect title for a song. Let's write a song called Wow tomorrow. And of course we got into the studio the next day and we said, let's write Wow. I remember halfway through that song when we were saying the Wow hook. I said, can you make it sound cool? But 90% of producers would say that's impossible to do. Greg is my top producer I have ever worked with. He literally did some magic thing on it and it just sounded so brilliant. We knew immediately it was just really special. In My Arms, which was recorded in the earlier stages of making the album, yet again displayed Kylie's keen ear for talent by choosing to collaborate with the then up-and-coming DJ Calvin Harris on the track. In fairness, he had 2 hit singles at that point, Acceptable in the 80s and The Girls, but he certainly wasn't the superstar DJ he is today. In Sean Smith's biography on Kylie, Calvin Harris talked about being so nervous the first time he worked with the superstar, he had to have a drink to calm his nerves. Harris described In My Arms to British magazine NME as sounding like 500 men with their tops off dancing. Calvin's career would go stratospheric a few short years later when he wrote the mega hit We Found Love for Rihanna and is of course today a squillionaire superstar DJ. He also produced a cover of Roxy Music's Love Is the Drug for the album, which failed to make the final cut. The video was shot back to back with Wow in Los Angeles and directed by Melina Matsoukas, who would go on to win a Grammy a few years later, coincidentally for the We Found Love video. In My Arms went top 10 in a number of European countries, and it's probably the song I would have chosen as the lead single, considering its international appeal, and how Calvin Harris's sound would go on to dominate the international charts a few short years later. But it's also easy to say with the benefit of hindsight. As the only R&B track, All I See was definitely an anomaly on the record, and it sounded a whole lot like a Janet Jackson song. According to Kyles, it was recorded last minute for the album in London, and Lil Eddie, the writer who sang the demo, was present in the studio during the recording. There is another version with a rap by Mims, which was included on the American edition of the album. Kylie commented in a documentary at the time that quite a few people wanted that song. In an interview on Lil Eddie's official Facebook page, he talked about how the song came about. This song happened so fast. I wrote it in Denmark. I was sick in bed the last day in Copenhagen, working with Jonas and Cutfather, and they were working with Kylie. So I begged them to play her the song. Cutfather thought it was too R&B for Kylie initially, but he eventually played her the song and it became her single. I flew to the UK to cook Kylie's vocals, and the rest is history. She walked in the room singing All I See, and we had a blast. What a legend. Whilst the track was good, the same can't really be said about the video, which surely must be one of Kylie's worst. Kylie's creative director William Baker was drafted in to direct it, and not even he could work his magic on it. All the money for the videos must have been spent at that point, and maybe they were really stuck for time and couldn't get anything else together. The one may have been the final release from the album, but many believed it to be one of the best on the record, and has since gone on to become a bona fide Kylie classic. The song was originally a track called I'm the One by the band Laid and Emma Holmgreen, and it was reworked by Richard Stannard and the Freemasons. It only reached number 36 in the UK and broke Kylie's string of top 10 hits since 2000, which wasn't a reflection of the quality of the song, but more so the fact that there was no physical single release, and as the last single off the album at the end of a campaign, interest was beginning to flag. Russell Small, one of the members of the Freemasons, said that the song had been sent off for nearly a year before they'd heard it had been accepted, and he was starting to think about keeping it for the Freemasons' own album before it was finally confirmed that Kylie wanted it. The video, inspired by 1940s glamour, was done in a studio in Manchester on a rare day off from Kylie's X-2008 tour by the same guy responsible for the visuals for the tour. And some information now about the album tracks. According to the book Kylie, Song by Song by Mark Andrews, Like a Drug was first offered to Britney Spears' team, who were recording Blackout around the same time. And of course, they turned it down. Like a Drug was recorded in London with producers Cutfather and Joe, who had come over from Sweden. They had had huge success a few years earlier with Superstar for British singer Jamelia. Speakerphone was a song that had plenty of fans, including the Queen of Pop herself, Madonna. In 2008, Madge chose the song for an iTunes playlist she curated for Apple Music. She called it the best song on the album. The song was, of course, written by Bloodshy and Avant, who also wrote Piece of Me for Britney the same year, and was used as the opening track from the accompanying X-2008 tour. Sensitised included a sample of Bonnie and Clyde by Serge Gainsbourg, and there were rumours online that the producer of the track, Guy Chambers, had offered the sample to Robbie Williams first, who turned it down. Kylie said in an interview in 2007 that Guy Chambers had spent 4 years working on the song, from discovering the track to its completion. The lyrics and melody were written by Kathy Dennis, and it also marked the final time Minogue worked with the hit songwriter to date. Kylie remarked in an interview in 2007 that she had to fight to get the ballad No More Rain on the album. The deeply personal song, which Kylie wrote whilst ill, was about imagining herself feeling better and back on stage. Cosmic, another song inspired by her ordeal, was written towards the end of her treatment in Melbourne. Stars was written in Brighton with Richard Stannard in the same session as Ruffle My Feathers, and finally got a live outing on the Anti-Tour in 2012. It was a song I thought nothing of when the album was first released, but has really grown on me over the years. Fascinating bit of information there. And the album is unfortunately well remembered by fans and those in the industry for the many disgruntled songwriters left in its wake. Songs submitted by big names such as Goldfrapp, Hot Chip, Boy George, Siobhan Fahey, Steve Anderson and Rob Davis were all rejected. Scottish DJ Milo, another to have recorded with Kylie for the album, said he was shocked when it was released without any of his songs on it, as he had been told that they would be on the final record. Jake Shears and Baby Daddy of Scissor Sisters fame had 2 songs rejected for X, Singing in My Song and White Diamond, but the latter did get a live outing on the Homecoming tour and on Kylie's documentary of the same name. In an interview with the BBC from 2009, the Pet Shop Boys talked about their experience of writing songs for the album. We never heard anything back. I think every songwriter in London wrote songs for X. When we were on tour, we had 2 male backing singers and they submitted songs for Kylie as well. They never heard anything back either. We won't be doing it again. But Kylie's loss was the boys' gain. A number of songs they wrote for the pop princess ended up on the duo's 2009 album, Yes. And as all fans know, lots of demos from the X sessions have leaked over the years, such as Ruffle My Feathers, Lose Control, Do It Again, and Sexual Gold, amongst many others. And the ballad Flower, which was also written for the album, was later released on the 2012 Abbey Road collection. The album was met with much criticism upon its release over how little the music referenced the life-changing ordeal Kylie had just lived through. Kylie later said in 2010 she wasn't exactly sure why the more personal songs didn't make the album, whether the record company thought they were too personal or just not right for Kylie. But the Princess of Pop has always been a remarkably private superstar, sharing all her personal, intimate details and talking endlessly about her struggles is just not her modus operandi. And Kylie probably didn't want to have to sing lots of songs night after night about something so personal. As Kylie fans, we've grown accustomed to exceptionally high standards for pop songs and visuals, so we can be a very particular and demanding audience. We sometimes forget how remarkable it was that Kylie even had the energy to make an album after the ordeal she had lived through. At the time, I was sidetracked by the album's lack of cohesion, but in the years that have passed, I've been able to put that aside and appreciate the album for what it is. In my humble opinion, a collection of really great pop songs. And if you'd like to learn more about how another Kylie classic, Fever, was made, don't forget to check out my video on it. And if you got value from this video, please hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.